What is good, everybody? It's BBKDRAGOON, and the October 23rd update did raise the tick rate, but maybe not quite as high as we were expecting. So let's recap. Back in August, when the Black Ops 4 multiplayer beta took place, a lot of players, including myself, were pretty excited with what I thought was a smooth experience, or a pretty smooth experience. During beta, the send rate was 60 Hz, which allowed for a pretty fluid set of play sessions. However, not long after release, many players began noticing a lot more kill trades and odd exchanges than what we had during the beta. As likely due to the fact that the server send rate for the full release of Black Ops 4 was quietly lowered to 20 Hz. As of October 23rd, Treyarch has released their first patch, which they say is the first phase of planned changes to the network configuration in targeted locations. After testing from this October 23rd patch, it looks like the send rate is now up to 30 Hz. That's half of what it was during the beta. And these tests were being executed on the East Coast, especially since Treyarch notes in targeted locations, these changes may not be rolling out to servers everywhere. Now let's get a few things clear. We're first talking specifically about the multiplayer side of the game, not Blackout. The Blackout beta ran at 10 Hz, whereas now in the full release it runs at 20 Hz. It starts a bit higher during the initial few segments of the match and then lowers to 20 Hz. Battle Nonsense is a really good channel and resource who covers these types of topics in depth. If you want to learn more about tick rates and how networking works in games, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. One thing to note before we dive deeper is that while yes, a higher tick server would dramatically help results, there are also a ton of other factors that go into how a game actually feels. Player frame rates, internet connection type, the way servers are configured, and the distance to the server. The list goes on and on. Notably, players, including myself, are frustrated. I mean, seeing 60 Hz down to 20 Hz quietly and now bumped back up to 30 Hz, it's just not optimal. It's not an experience I think many of us had thought was going to happen. Here's what Treyarch had to say in the patch notes. For a game launch with as massive a population as ours, hitting so many global servers at once, we configure our infrastructure to ensure game stability has the highest priority over all other factors. Now that we're past the initial launch of the game, we are focusing on fine-tuning network performance around the globe using the real-world data that we have collected. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we will roll out several updates to our network setup that will continue to improve the experience for our players since launch. Alright, so let's unpack this in my opinion on the situation. Betas are used to stress test games, but Activision and a lot of other big companies over the last few years use them essentially as demos or test drives for a lot of players. Therefore, my expectations were set on the full release of the game performing at the level of the beta or better than the beta. World War II as well had a 60 Hz tick rate throughout release, and it still has its 60 Hz tick rate. So having the multiplayer side of Black Ops 4 drop down so significantly to 20 Hz without really a peep from anybody, and now seeing it just bumped back up to 30, half of what we experienced in the beta, my expectations feel like they have not been met, or I don't know, it feels like the old switcheroo. I definitely understand where Treyarch is coming from with this. They have one of the biggest franchises in all of gaming, and having a good, smooth launch is a lot more important, especially for the PR side of the game. Imagine the PR nightmare that Activision would be facing if Black Ops 4 launches and people can't connect to matches and it's just a networking disaster. Those kind of headlines can hit the mainstream really quickly and dramatically impact sales from a negative perspective. I guess what worries me the most here is that it doesn't sound like they're ready to commit to achieving what we experienced in the beta or even what is available in COD World War II. If you look at their statements throughout the patch notes, they make really no commitments about what tick rate they're eventually going to hit, when they're going to hit it, and if it's going to make its way to all of the players who own Black Ops 4. And this is really unfortunate because I've been enjoying the game quite a bit. My initial impressions video, I told you guys that I thought it offered a lot of value to players who enjoy this style of game, and I think if you are a Call of Duty fan, you really should be pressing and leaning into Treyarch over this issue to encourage them to make this the best Call of Duty that it possibly can be. Here we are a couple weeks later, and my number one complaint with Black Ops 4 is honestly the networking side of the game. Beyond just some kill trading things here and there and odd hit detection elements that I likely think are attributed to the lower tick rate, I've had party connection troubles and getting kicked out from Blackout games midway through every once in a while. And those are things that I don't run into in other titles. I don't run into that in Overwatch. I don't even run into that in Destiny 2, like nearly at all. In Destiny, if you guys played D1 as much as I know a lot of you guys did, you know error codes galore. It's ridiculous to me that Black Ops 4 is as big as it is, yet the networking side has been probably the biggest frustration, at least in my personal experience. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to have to see what Treyarch is going to do, and are these updates going to roll out to everybody? We don't want to see this just hitting on like a West Coast and East Coast server. I want it to be for all players of Black Ops 4. I really do want to see this game excel, and frankly, I'm very nervous about this kind of practice because I understand that a beta is a stress test, and a lot of people pre-purchase Black Ops so they could get into the beta. But for me, I think a lot of times, at least my expectations are set where the beta is going to run worse than the full release, not better than the full release. Maybe this all comes down to transparency and communication, but overall, I'm just hoping the situation improves. What do you think about this whole thing? Are you a Black Ops owner? Have you noticed the difference between the beta and the release version of the game? I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. Follow me over on Twitter at BBKDRAGOON. I've been saying hi and loving chatting with many of you over there. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, ring the notification bell since sub boxes have been borked for a while, and I'll check in with you again next time.